Rich Rod is back in Morgantown, but does that mean the magic is back for the Mountaineers as they enter today's backyard brawl with Pitt as a home dog? And can LSU get the win and the cover in revenge after blowing a fourth quarter lead in the swamp last year against Florida? Plus, I've got 5 teams today that I think are in trap situations, and they are stay away from games as far as I'm concerned. Hi, everyone. Al DeMarco here, General Manager, DeMarcoSports.com. And this is going to be your Saturday video report. And keep in mind, guys, here on the video, I am on a 62 and 32 roll with the plays that I am giving away. That's in all sports combined over the past 13 months, 62 and 32 roll. And of course, when we're talking about the best bets, guys, well, I would say last Saturday's was pretty damn easy as I gave you Oregon. Yeah, the Ducks kind of covered that 28.5 point spread and that by 66 points in a blowout over Oklahoma State. And then I followed that up on Thursday night with the Packers getting the job done against Washington. Today, my best bet happens to be another top-rated 15-dime release, number 27 out of 40. It goes on the Saturday night card, and it's a 2-touchdown mismatch, and it's one of those games that's going to fly under the radar because, as I've always said, that I think the key on Saturday is to concentrate the most where the odds makers concentrate the least. So it's not going to be Alabama and Wisconsin. It's not going to be LSU and Florida. It's not going to be Notre Dame and Texas A&M because the marquee games usually have the sharpest lines and are often the toughest ones to win. This is an under-the-radar game, and again, my Saturday best bets over the past 2 years, I've won 14 out of 20, going for number 15 out of 21. It's the half price play of the day over at DeMarcoSports.com, or you see at the bottom of the screen, it's the 2-day free all access pass. You can get my best bet and the best bets of all the handicappers, and there are some red hot guys. You can get them all for free if you've never taken advantage of the 2-day free all access pass over at DeMarcoSports.com. The regular price is $109 today. You not only get today free, but you pick a second day free as well. I would choose tomorrow, but the choice is yours, and it's free. No strings attached. I can't oversell the word free, F-R-E-E. If you have any questions, you can always contact customer service. I've been doing it for 24 years, and I do it because it's the best way for you to get an idea of what we do, because every handicapper does something different. Every guy writes his analysis different, and every guy has a different opinion. So check it out. The free 2-day all access pass over at DeMarcoSports.com if you've never taken advantage of it before. Okay, let's get busy here and talk about some of these games. Listen, guys, it's an interesting card. I don't think there's a tremendous amount of depth to the card, but you only need one winner. So let's start off talking about the Pittsburgh, West Virginia game. You know, Rich Rod came back to Morgantown, and I think he's going to turn around the West Virginia program, but it's not going to happen overnight. Okay, just because he had success before, just because he left the winning program and came back to West Virginia, it's going to take a while to get his type of athletes to run his system again. And we certainly didn't see that in last week's performance at Ohio, where as a 3.5-point favorite, they not only lost, the Mountaineers not only lost 17-10 to the Bobcats, but they got thoroughly outplayed in that game. Total yardage, Pitt had 250. Ohio had 429. The run game was non-existent, and it's only going to get worse because their leading rusher from a year ago, White, suffered a season-ending knee injury. He's gone for the season. They only had the ball for a little over 16 minutes in that loss to the Bobcats. Their offensive line is mediocre at best. Can't run the ball. Lost their second leading receiver on the year to a season-ending knee injury as well, or ankle injury, I think it was. So the fact that they have won 19 of their last 20 games straight up in the month of September at home, inconsequential. Because I look at the Panthers here, who have gotten off to a very strong start, albeit against inferior competition, playing Duquesne and playing Central Michigan. I look at the Panthers here as a far superior team. And I love the fact, and you may laugh at this, but I love the fact that the Panthers ran up the score against Central Michigan last week. Hell, they scored a touchdown with 45 seconds to play with a 21-point lead to cover the spread against Chippewas in the 45-17 blowout. Panthers are also 15-4 against the spread as a road chalk. under their current coach. And I like the fact that their defense has 4 sacks in each of the first 2 games. So to me, laying 7.5 points, even though it's a traditional rivalry game, I've got no issue. So I'm going with Pittsburgh minus the 7.5. And you know what I'm about to say. Lay that 7.5 and buy down that half point if that line is anywhere between 6 and 7.5 points. Guys, if you like the videos, make sure you subscribe down there in the bottom corner so you never miss another video report. All you've got to do is click on that little subscribe button, and I can assure you that I will be here tomorrow and probably on Monday, especially since this is going to be that first Monday. We have a couple NFL games on Monday night. So make sure you do that, and you'll never miss another video report. Okay, your next game. And again, there's not a lot of quality on this card, but let's talk about the LSU Florida game. Now, you remember what happened last year. LSU, fourth quarter, collapsed in the swamp, ended up losing that game 27-16. This is a huge game for Brian Kelly. If Brian Kelly doesn't win this game, he might find himself on the outs, just like Billy Napier is apparently on the outs in Gainesville. That's what happens when you lose at home to South Florida 18-16, and your players, play without using their brains too often. Just an awful loss last week for the Florida Gators. Listen, we haven't seen the LSU offense really put it together, but I have faith that they can do it here. And they certainly have the motivation because they had won 5 straight wins and covers in the series before collapsing in the fourth quarter last year. Now, the defense has certainly been good. Listen, they went to Clemson and they held the Tigers and shut down their quarterback with ease in that 17-10 win. But even then, the offense didn't really deliver. But this, even though it's a must-win game for Florida, I think it's an equally must-win game for LSU because Brian Kelly has talked big, but has he really delivered yet? Well, this is it. This is the defining moment as far as I'm concerned for Brian Kelly and his LSU tenure. So I'm going to go with him here in this spot and the Tigers. They have a couple of offensive line problems, and in terms of injuries, their starting center was hurt, and their starting tight end was hurt in last week's win. But the center did practice this week. It doesn't look like the tight end is going to play. But I think the key ultimately here is going to be that LSU defense. It's aggressive. It's fast. They've got the 2 strong pass rushers in Howard Perkins and Whit Weeks. And they get a strong interior push, too, from Dominic McKinley and Bernard Gooden, their interior linemen. So I think that that's going to be a plus. And again, the line is sitting at 7. So you know what I'm going to say here. Again, buy down that half point on LSU if you get them anywhere between 6 and 7.5 points. FYI, if you already happen to be a customer over at DeMarcosports.com, this is the last weekend to take advantage of that second biggest discount of the entire year where you can save 27% of your total purchase price. That's any combination of picks and or packages. 27%. I do it for those of you that have come back at the beginning of the NFL and college football season. Again, that coupon code is 27%. It's pretty self-explanatory, and that's over at DeMarcosports.com. Okay, next, let's take a look at another kind of under-the-radar game, and I want to talk about Memphis and Troy. Troy is coming off a demoralizing loss at Clemson, a game in which they were up 16-3 last week as a 31-point dog, and then ultimately lost, which they should have done, 27-16. They've only covered 1 of their last 8 non-conference home games. Well, today, they're a 4.5-point underdog to Memphis. Now, this line was 3.5. It moved to 4.5 early on Friday afternoon. Now, Memphis is not the Memphis team that you saw last year. They only had 1 defensive starter back. They only had 2 offensive starters back. In fact, they've got 10 new transfers starting on defense, 5 transfers starting on offense. But the key here is that one of the transfers starting on offense happens to be a veteran quarterback, and Brendan Lewis, who started his career at Colorado, then moved on to Nevada. Last year at Nevada, he completed almost 68% of his passes, threw for over 2,200 yards and 16 touchdowns, was a dual threat too, running for over 700 yards and another 8 touchdowns, averaging nearly 5 yards a carry. So this is a guy who came into his final season of ball with 37 starts under his belt. So they've got somebody they can rely on, okay? They beat Chattanooga at home as a 30.5 point favorite, which they should have, 45-10. They won at Georgia State 38-16. Only up by one at halftime, but they managed to cover that 15-point spread. Now, do they have a big game with Arkansas next? Yes, they do. But they are a better team than Troy. I think Troy played over their pay grade last week. I think Memphis can get the job done. So that would be your final selection there. Now, a couple of games as I handicap, I often look at other games that I think that you have to stay away from. And here's a couple of games where look-ahead situations often come back to bite you in the ass. Okay? You've got SMU coming off a home loss to Baylor, laying 27.5 points at Missouri State. This is an ultimate sandwich game. SMU coming off a loss. You figure, oh my God, they're going to destroy Missouri State first year of FBS play. But SMU plays and visits TCU next. So although I think SMU wins and wins comfortably, did the Mustangs extend that margin big enough with an eye cast forward to the Horned Frogs visit next week? You've got Missouri, a 26.5 point favorite, hosting South Carolina next week and coming off the resumption of the border war win against Kansas. Trap game? I think so. You've got Iowa State finally beating Iowa at home in Ames last week. They're only a 21-point favorite at Arkansas State. They beat the Red Wolves 52-7 last year. They're only laying about 21 points. So you would think, oh my God, this is easy, right? And Arkansas State's coming off a 56-14 loss at Arkansas. But again, is this the ultimate letdown spot for Iowa State, the far superior club? But you just beat Iowa. You've got Texas Tech, pretty cheap, 23.5 at home against Oregon State. And the Beavers aren't good. But Texas Tech finds itself at Utah next week. And the final one, you've got the Oklahoma Sooners, right? Coming off a big win at home against Michigan. They're at my alma mater, Temple. How they got that game, Temple, God knows how. 23.5 point favorite, right? They ought to blow out Temple. But they host Auburn next week. Are they going to be focused for that game? So these are just some of the games that I think you have to be aware of. Now, in terms of how I would rate today's complimentary plays, going back, I like Pittsburgh, number 1. I like LSU, number 2, and Memphis, number 3. The order that I gave you them in breaking down the analysis is the order that I like those complimentary plays. So again, Pittsburgh, number 1. I would go with LSU, number 2, and I would take Memphis, number 3. You know, you're probably sitting there going, oh my God, Al, there's a teaser possibility in there. Is there not? Yes, there is. Sure, you could tease Pittsburgh and LSU. I would give you my permission. I mean, tailor-made for a teaser. Another teaser possibility today. Hey, did you look at Nevada? Of course you didn't look at Nevada because Nevada sucks. But, you know, Nevada is a 9.5 point favorite at home against Middle Tennessee State. The Blue Raiders opened at home and got upset by an FCS team. Then they lost to Wisconsin 42-10. Okay, it was a 14-10 game at halftime, and then they got annihilated in the second half. The offensive line for the Blue Raiders has already given up 10 sacks. The running game's only averaged 1.5 yards per carry, and MTSU is 2-12 against the spread since Derek Mason took over the program. Now, did Nevada lose at Penn State in its opener 48-11? Yes. Did they beat Sacramento State last week 20-17 and fail to cover as a 7-point favorite? Yes. Were they fortunate to beat Sacramento State, considering Sacramento State had 2 game-winning touchdowns called back by penalties and missed the potential game-winning or game-tying field goal? Yes. And they've lost 7 straight to FBS teams. But, you know, you could take Nevada down to 2.5 points in a 7.2 team teaser. So just throwing out a couple of possibilities there. But again, your official 3 free plays are still going to be Pittsburgh, LSU, and Memphis in that order. Good luck, everybody, and we'll talk to you again on Sunday.